He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome to Coast View, the show that celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi a better place to live, work, and play. Today we got a great show. In the first half of the show, we have Lee Bond, who's the Chief Executive Officer for Singing River Health System. In the second half of the show, we're going to be talking with Mike Bruffy, who's the VP and General Counsel for the Island View Casino and Resort, and look forward to that conversation. They're doing a great job of reopening the casino, and he's going to give us an update. He's also got some great news to share, and we'll hear that as well in our next segment. So, Lee, how are you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Very good. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. It's great to talk to you again. It's always good to check in with you. I've really enjoyed over many years watching your leadership, whether it be at the Grand Casino, the IP, and other parts of your career, serving with you on the board of directors for the Jackson County Chamber, and now, of course, as Chief Executive Officer for Singing River Health Systems. You know, you've really sat in an important chair during the recovery of that hospital and the turnaround of that hospital, and now the expansion of that hospital. You recently announced the purchase of Garden Park. We're going to come back to all those aspects. I want to talk a little bit more about your career and growing up and kind of where you are today. But before we do that, let's get the important stuff out of the way. The pandemic. What's your latest thoughts on the COVID situation?
The latest thoughts are it's getting better overall. We do see a spike in the number of positives, but the thing you got to really focus on is hospitalizations. Our number of hospitalizations is really lower than it's been. For example, today we have 6 people that are hospitalized, and there was a time when we had a multiple of that. So while we have more positive tests in the community, that's a result of more testing and a result of the world opening up, more people out there and more activity going on. So we do have to be careful. I think people have got to be cognizant. I think we've got to heighten the focus on basic hygiene, hand hygiene, and face touching and things like that. And we've got to remind people they need to be careful when they're in their homes because that's where it seems to be spreading. But overall, we see less acuity right now, and so we're feeling okay about things.
So I mentioned to you before the show that Dr. Nicholas Conger, who has been a kind of regular on the show from Memorial, has talked about just essentially what you just said, that there's been a slight uptick. He expected to see that. But it's so important that people not drop their guard. So, when we're out and about, I think the majority of people are wearing face masks and are practicing social distancing. Some are sort of ignoring the reality of that. But when they get home, one of your concerns is they're dropping their guard. Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Sure. Well, I've said this from the beginning. Face masks help, but they're not a panacea because the face mask helps a person who has it from spreading it to others. That's the issue. Whereas I think that people do lose their focus and let their guard down when they're at home. When they're at work, everybody's a little more aware of people around them and what's going on, and they're a little more apt to wash their hands and not touch their face. When they're at home, they're more likely to hug somebody, they're more likely to share a serving plate, they're more likely to get close to someone and be in a situation where the droplets can spread. And so I think that's the area that we need people to focus on is in the home. There was that whole safer at home thing. I like to say I think people are sometimes safer at work than they are at their home.
Well, you can see how that can happen. I mean, you really do, because people do feel safe at home. But if they've got various family members that are out and about and having different levels of communication with other people, maybe touching other people, maybe having close communications with other people, then they come home and they say, okay, I'm okay now. But it's not like that. And you've seen cases where it really drives the point home that family units are not safe unless they practice some care at home. You've seen examples of that, haven't you?
Absolutely, and there's the people get confused about what is. They think that when they're out walking in the world at a workplace that they're concerned about asymptomatic people. And the reality is, what happens is they get home and they've got someone else who lives in the home that has a little cough, a little tickle in their throat. Many times they think it's sinus issues, and it's not, and they just write it off, and they say, "Oh, I'm asymptomatic. I feel a little warm, but." I'm okay. Well, that's a symptom. If you've got a dry cough, if you've got a low-grade fever, those are symptoms. You're not asymptomatic. And I think, again, people are still, to some degree, not a lot, but a few people are ignoring actual symptoms sometimes of others in their homes.
So I've had a string of really important leaders on the show, from Clay Williams from the airport, Milton Segura from South Mississippi Tourism, Travis Lund from Beau Rivage, and I mean just a long list of leaders lately, and now you among them. Yeah, I think the thing that we continue to kind of not preach, because people are gonna, they need the information, they'll make their choices, but that we know what the tools are to fight COVID. We know what they are. Just be careful. Wear your face mask. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Practice social distance, and especially take care of the vulnerable. That's actually, this whole issue of families is probably where the vulnerable are the most vulnerable. Wouldn't you believe?
Yeah, and I would say, Ricky, again, I think the area that people can help the most is that, who needs to wear a mask more than anybody? Is somebody that's got symptoms. But you know what they can do more than wear a mask? They can stay isolated in their home and not go anywhere and not infect other people in their home. Our contact tracing shows far and away that is over 90% of where people get it is from someone in their home who, even if they were wearing a face mask, they're probably going to get it from if they contact them. So remember, the reason the CDC and everybody went ahead and recommended mask wearing is because people don't have enough self-control when they have symptoms to stay home. It's the people with symptoms that are the problem, going out in the public or spreading it in their home. And that's, if we could focus on that more than anything, I think that would stop the spread the most. So it's about education. For every 9 people that are educated about it, that 10th one that's not is the one that's a problem. So I think we got to continue to educate people about how, when they have symptoms, they can avoid spreading it. To me, that's the most important thing.
It's critical that we send a message to the world that we're a safe place to visit, and we keep saying that over and over again. We are behind, Ingalls and the military and the supporting industries around that. Tourism's number 2. So the hospitality state has to be a hospitality state. It has to be a safe visit. And one of the things that Milton talked about was that when people make their choice to go visit somewhere, more than anything else, they're interested in, is this a safe place to visit? Do the people who operate the attractions and the restaurants and all that, do they understand this, and do they get it? And are their numbers low? Our numbers continue, while, as we pointed out, there is a slight uptick. Our numbers, relatively speaking, are still low, and hopefully we can keep them low. Any other thought on COVID before we shift gears?
No, just stay focused and try to educate other folks about how important it is to not spread, especially when you're symptomatic.
Now, how are you? We'll come to the Garden Park purchase here in just a second, but how's the hospital doing?
We're doing relatively well, all things considered. It's been tough. Clearly, we've had some of the toughest couple of months in our organization's history and the world's history. But overall, I'd say we're doing okay. Surgeries are back. People still get cancer and they still need surgery, and they still have appendicitis and those sorts of things we're now able to take care of. I'm hoping that the world stays open for surgeries and even elective surgeries for good, permanently. We're able to navigate even with COVID and COVID positives very safely. The hospital is probably about the safest place you can possibly be. The only thing that's still down is emergency room visits. Those are down about 25%. And again, that's nationwide. And I think there's some places that are still down 50 to 70%. So relatively speaking, we can't be too concerned about that. It's not altogether unexpected.
But Lee, what we don't want people to do is make a decision to not go to the hospital, not go to the emergency room, because they're concerned that the hospital or the emergency room in this particular case is not a safe place to visit. And your point is that it's probably the safest place to visit because of all the protocols that are in place. So if someone needs to go to the emergency room, they should go, shouldn't they?
It is, especially for heart attack and stroke symptoms. If you're having those,
are really great at connecting with people. You enjoy people, and your leadership is all about making sure that you take care of the people who are around you. So I'm just curious, how's your team doing? I know it's been a tough couple of months, but how's your team doing?
They're doing
Why don't we
great.
let's do this. We're coming to the end of the segment. I want to talk about your team when we come back, because I don't want to short shrift it because we're getting to the break. This is Lee Bond, the CEO of Singing River Health Systems, and we'll be back right after this break.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast View on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
Get out of the house and over to Big Play today. 2 massive arcades, bowling, go-karts, 2 mini golf courses, a 2-story state-of-the-art laser tag arena, bumper cars, and right now get a $50 game card for only $25. Visit our station's Facebook and print on demand so you can play at Big Play Entertainment Center now. These deals won't last long, so make sure you get your half-off deal. Big Play Entertainment Center, Highway 90 Biloxi. Bowl, play, eat. Go to our station's Facebook to get your half-off deal now.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi, and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
This is House Call for Health. There may be no greater medical mystery and no greater tragedy than sudden infant death syndrome. It used to be known as crib death. For no apparent reason, a presumably healthy sleeping baby dies. Medical experts don't have clear-cut answers to what causes sudden infant death, or SIDS, but now they have 2 risk factors: smoking and drinking during pregnancy beyond the first 3 months. A new study finds that babies whose mothers drank alcohol and smoked tobacco after the first trimester are at far greater risk of SIDS, 12 times greater. Previous studies showed a risk of smoking and drinking individually. This study says doing both drastically increases the danger. The research is sponsored by the National Institutes of Health, which is calling for greater publicity about the danger and improved screening at the very beginning of a pregnancy. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We are with the fabulous Norbert Putnam, as he played on so many hit records, you can't count them, and produced for some of the biggest acts ever. Norbert, Elvis.
And I want to tell you about Presley. He had 2 different voices. He would sit and talk to me in a very calm, low voice. And we were at Stack's one night, and we were having lunch. We always had lunch at midnight because he was nocturnal. We sat there and we have our sandwiches, and at 1 o'clock, he looked up. He said, "Hey, Put, come on, it's time for me to go beat Elvis." And he stood up in a much deeper voice. He put on his macho voice. "Hey, fellas, it's 1 o'clock. Let's get cracking, okay?"
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, Amazon Alexa, and now on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. I'm so privileged to have Lee Bond with us today. He's the Chief Executive Officer for Singing River Health Systems, and just an all-around great guy. Somebody I've known for a lot of years. I know how much he cares about his employees, how much he cares about the community. But before we went to the break, I'd ask him a question about how his team is holding up. I didn't want him to rush that answer, so let's come back to the question. How's your team doing?
They're doing great. I've been very blessed in my career to work with some of the greatest teams ever, and here in particular, we've got people that have a lot of heart and a lot of soul. And when you work with people like that, as Lombardi said, they're never going to come off the field second. And I work with a group of just talented winners, and this must be what it feels like to be on a championship football team. They're great, every one of them in their own right. We're in a good place, and they're doing very well, very strong team.
Yeah, I regularly say that coastal Mississippians have in their DNA resiliency. That we know how to dig deep, we know how to rise to the occasion. And COVID's been a challenging situation, and people have really risen to the occasion just across the board. It's been amazing to watch, hasn't it?
It has indeed.
So Garden Park Hospital, where the heck did that come from? Tell me more about that.
So we've had a relationship with Garden Park for quite some time. It's been years. We've worked very closely with them. We collaborate with them on a lot of things. We took their first COVID patient here, and we've worked with them on cardiac care. We've worked with them on emergency and hospitalist care, and just the whole gamut. And so they've been a really strong partner to us for a while. And we've worked with their parent company, Hospital Corporation of America, and they have a concentration in Florida, the Panhandle, and over in Texas and Louisiana some. But this was their only hospital in Mississippi. With the way the world is migrating, a small hospital like that, you kind of need to be aligned with other hospitals. And so it really made sense for them and for us. It was, I think, a win-win for both entities to do this. So it may be a surprise, but then again, it's pretty natural. And so I think it's not a shock for sure.
So for people who don't realize that Ocean Springs Hospital is also part of the Singing River Health System, and you see Garden Park just being an extension of that, just as Ocean Springs is.
It is. It's it takes about, from here to Pascagoula, it takes me about I drive pretty fast, about 18 minutes, and I made it from here to Garden Park in exactly 18 minutes. So it's interesting that it's almost equidistant from the center here in Ocean Springs. And again, it's an investment. It's I like to use the word, instead of an acquisition, it's more like a merger or a partnership. They bring a lot of good things to the table there. Their A-rated facility. It's 32 acres and 136 beds. There's 136 beds in Ocean Springs. So a very similarly sized property, a fairly new property, and it's an investment more than an acquisition. It really is. It's a great investment for us. So we're very, very excited for the people over there to join our family.
Yeah, so, I knew you as an operational guy when you were at IP. You're just a great operations guy, and you always enjoyed that, I know. But people may not realize that you're also a CPA, so you've got accounting and financial background. And in a situation like the Garden Park acquisition, you really played on all of your skill sets, and it's really helpful to have a broad-based experience to do something like that, isn't it?
It is. Again, I could not be more blessed in my life. The journey that I took, starting out, as a CPA and understanding business principles, I've got that as a foundation. Interestingly, I'm more of an operations guy than an accountant. I don't even like the title CEO. I'm more of a COO. I'm an operating guy. That's what I do. And just been able to lever that and ultimately, in evaluating Garden Park, both making sure that from a financial standpoint, it was the right thing to do for our people and their people and the stability of our entire entity going forward. I mean, looking at operationally the things they do and do they fit together with what we do. And at the end, the decision collectively by our team and theirs was it does. So it was a marriage made in heaven.
So when you were at the University of South Alabama, did you envision, I guess basically, were you expecting to be an accountant for the rest of your life when you started your education?
No, actually, so I put myself through college as a carpenter, building houses and running a construction crew, which I loved, by the way. Loved that, and I probably would have stayed a carpenter forever if I thought I could have continued with that forever. But ultimately, I started out getting a business degree, and then I realized that to really get a good job, I probably need to get a little more specialty. So I ended up in accounting and got the CPA designation, and I'm glad I did that. I wouldn't trade it for anything because I think it gave me a serious edge to other business folks by understanding the numbers better. But no, I thought my journey would take me into something more entrepreneurial or something like that. And then obviously getting into the CPA business, I got to see, working with Bob Cullenberg, got to see a huge spectrum of all types of businesses, from medical to construction to restaurants to power company to ultimately casinos. So you name it, I got to see it there. And that was a big help in my career, certainly working as a CPA.
Well, you eventually made it to Grand Casino as the chief financial officer. Did you work your way up in Grand Casino? Tell me about that.
So I was working at a CPA firm in Gulfport, with Bob Cullenberg, and an opportunity came open at Grand Casino's corporate office. And at the time, back then, it had just started, and it was the fastest growing company in America. And so they had an audit position, an audit manager position, I think, open. And so I took that, and soon after working at the corporate office, I got to go and travel to the two properties in Louisiana, open the Stratosphere in Las Vegas, and that travel experience was also good. I got to see how, everywhere you go, I think it was Ben Franklin said that, in every person I meet, I learn from them something. And I think it's the same way with businesses. So I learned best practices exist everywhere and was able to take that skill set to the Grand Biloxi and worked there for about 9 years, enjoyed that very much. And then, as you know, Katrina came along, and I'll be honest, they had been bought out by a company right before Katrina, and it just wasn't I like the family atmosphere where decisions are made at the property, operational orientation, and I decided I wanted to go in a different direction. And that's when John Lucas called me at the IP. And of course, as you know, at that time, it was not exactly, it was dead last in the market. And I told him no twice. And finally, he said, I want you on the roster. And if you know John, he's a great guy, one of my favorite mentors. And so I said yes. Best decision I ever made. And that was a Cinderella story. We went from last to, when I left, we were actually first in the market in guest counts. And it was a great and amazing journey. And that's where I sort of became into more of an operational role there and thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I had a really good relationship with John Lucas. Who didn't? I mean, he just was such an easygoing guy, really enjoyed getting to know people. But it's interesting. Most successful people I talk to, and frankly, just about everyone I talk to on this show are successful, that there are these inflection points in their lives. They reach these crossroads, and it's just, based on that next relationship and what they learned from that relationship, then it set their career off in another direction, and you just never know. I think one of the maybe one day we'll just do a show on success and what success looks like, but I think people just have to pay attention to those moments and just be aware that as you pointed out, every relationship and what you learn in that relationship has the benefit of planting a seed in you, and you don't know where it's going to go. I mean, all you got to do is keep watering it and listen to what you're seeing and seeing how it broadens your point of view. So it's amazing how life shows you these twists and turns that turn out in very positive ways. ways.
Yeah, you never know. I would have never thought that I would end up in healthcare. And then, when John left to go to, when the IP was sold, we both knew we wanted to go different directions ultimately from staying with the company that had purchased it. And so he went to work for Hard Rock International. As you know, he's now the chief operating officer for Hard Rock International, traveling the world and opening properties very, very well. I had the opportunity to go work with him down in Fort Lauderdale, and I almost did. But there was an opportunity at this little place called Singing River Health System, going back to my roots in finance. And, I got a lot of roots here, and I'm just so deeply rooted here that I decided that I wanted to stay. And who knew where the journey would take me, and they needed some of the skill set that I was blessed with, in that prior career. Business is business, and being able to apply the things that I learned with John on that turnaround, we were able to apply a lot of those same principles here at Singing River and turn it around based on, just core business principles.
Yeah, you hit the ground running there at Singing River at a time when it needed someone like you who had this broad background, who had, one of the things about the casino industry, you get to work around some really, really smart people and sharp people who I'm sure taught you a lot.
Is the team. It's not me. If I've got one gift, it's putting together strong teams, and that's the thing that has made all the difference is the team.
I hear that loud and clear. Well, look, we'll look forward to visiting with you again. We're coming to the end of our time together, but congratulations on sort of turning the corner and moving the hospital system back in the direction of success. And I hope you continue to grow, and we'll talk to you again in a few weeks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, Lee, take care. This has been Lee Bond from Singing River Health Systems.
The Dean's List with Janice Dean.
A compassionate young man who became a dinner companion for a stranger makes today's Dean's List. Lisa Mealander and her family had been eating at the Eaton Park in Belle Vernon, Pennsylvania, when she noticed how her server was interacting with a senior patron. The server, Dylan Teetle, had dropped to one knee so he could give his full attention to the gentleman. Lisa wrote on Facebook, "The man apologized for not hearing well, and he talked about how he lost his hearing during the war. He was 91 years old with many stories to tell, and Dylan patiently listened, giving him his full attention. He also helped the man figure out a meal from the menu before putting the order into the kitchen." Lisa tried to flag Dylan down so she could offer to pay for the man's meal. Dylan said someone else had already taken care of the check. Before leaving her table, Lisa snapped pictures of Dylan chatting with the senior and published them to Facebook, where they have been since shared thousands of times. Thank you, Dylan, for your kindness, and Lisa for sharing this story with all of us. Janice Dean, Fox News.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk, Mississippi. Covering the Bulldogs like no one else. Staying informed is a full-time job, even more so during an election year. That's why SuperTalk is here. With Fox News, News Mississippi, and the Super Talkers, you'll go inside the campaigns, and we'll separate what's real from what's not to bring you the latest information that matters. From now until you go into the voting booth on November 3rd, your election headquarters is SuperTalk, Mississippi. Available on the SuperTalk app and at supertalk.fm. From the Gallo Radio Show archives.
In the house, Mike Hurst.
When I started at the end of 2017, sadly, our office had gotten so low during the last administration. I think in FY16, we prosecuted 11 illegal immigration cases, 11, which is embarrassing. First year I was there, we had jumped almost 700% to 77 prosecutions. And Paul, that number I think is going to increase very much more this year. We are continuing to see illegal immigration impact crime around the state. I'll give you a perfect example. About a month ago, we prosecuted an illegal alien who had brought 9 kilos of heroin and 1 kilo of fentanyl through our state. Now, to give your listeners an idea of what 2.2 pounds of fentanyl will do, that will wipe out 1 million people, Paul. That'll wipe out a third of our state.
This has been another Gallo Radio Show audio archive.
Get out of the house and over to Big Play today. 2 massive arcades, bowling, go-karts, 2 mini golf courses, a 2-story state-of-the-art laser tag arena, bumper cars, and right now get a $50 game card for only $25. Visit our station's Facebook and print on demand so you can play at Big Play Entertainment Center now. These deals won't last long, so make sure you get your half-off deal. Big Play Entertainment Center, Highway 90 Biloxi. Bowl, play, eat. Go to our station's Facebook to get your half-off deal now.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, want to come work for the #1 radio group on the coast? TeleSouth Media has a great opportunity for an outside sales consultant. Get paid while having fun and work in the exciting, fast-paced world of radio. We have award-winning stations like 97.9 CPR Rocks, 105.9 The Monkey, G96.7, SuperTalk 103.1, and 103.5 The Possum. Take the first step towards a new and rewarding career. Submit your resume to Jesse@telesouth.com. That's JESSE@telesouth.com. TeleSouth Media is an equal employment opportunity employer.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter, has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because, I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard, and,
Wow.
All this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. We're moving now to a conversation with Mike Bruffy, the VP and General Counsel of the Island View Casino. Good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
Good, Ricky. How are you? Thank you for having me on your show.
I'm doing great, man, and I appreciate you joining us. Hey, before we move any further, you and I have been active in the community for a long, long time, and I just had a conversation with Lee Bond, the CEO of Singing River Health Systems. He's such a great guy and good leader, isn't he?
He really is. Lee and I work together at the IP, and you don't find people like Lee very often. He's just cut from a different cloth, and he's a hardworking guy. He's a team guy. He's a family guy, and he's just so genuine, and he's a wonderful person.
Hey, you know what? The way I look at it, he was the right man at the right time for Singing River Health System. I mean, with his operational background, his financial and CPA background.
Right.
He says he doesn't like to be called CEO because he's not playing the role of the CEO. He likes to be called a chief operating officer. Operations and working with people and building strong teams, that's what he does.
Yeah.
And, what a great conversation that was. We're lucky to have leaders like him. And, I'm lucky to sit in this chair and get to talk to really incredible leaders every day. And you've had a great background. We'll come back to your background here in just a second. But, Island View is near and dear to my heart because Terry Green and Rick Carter are both very good friends of mine. And the first week we did this show, we had a conversation with Rick and Terry. Yeah. And it was a very popular video. In fact, Kyle will put a link to the original video with Terry and Rick along with this video so people can watch it. But what a great story. The Island View story is a great story. It's one of 2 guys with incredible incredible determination. Locally owned. I mean, here, two Gulfport boys, 50% owners in this incredible company, and they've continued to expand, and their determination along the way, and how they came to be what they are today. It's just a great story. And by the way, the conversation was one that is funny too. I mean, you can't help but laugh, along the way. Rick especially added a little bit of color to it that made it so much fun. And Terry, Terry's a guy that doesn't say a lot publicly very often. He's just a hard-working guy in the trenches doing his thing. But, he kind of opened up a little bit during that conversation. It was great to hear his story as well. So we'll put that link here. But Island View is a Gulfport success story, and it was rolling and going before the pandemic started. And then suddenly you guys realized, holy mackerel, we're going to have to shut this thing down. Tell me about that.
Well, I think we started seeing the cases in the United States in January, late January, and then we were monitoring them on a state-by-state basis. And in Mississippi, I think we started seeing our share in maybe early March. So we actually had a call scheduled with Alan Godfrey, who's the executive director of the commission. And Larry Gregory, who's the executive director of the association, put it together. And it's March 16th. It's about lunchtime. And we think we're going to be talking about, how our protocols going, our safeguards going. And we had seen about a 20% decline in business, but we were still doing fine. We'd actually exceeded our budget in January, and February was a strong month. And anyway, so Larry intros Alan, and he says, guys, we might have to talk about shutting down at some point. And we all went. And you've got 26 gaming operators on the phone, and that just came out of the blue. But Larry kind of laid the predicate for that. Alan then piggybacked on that and said, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, you might see an order today." And sure enough, about 4 o'clock, we got the order from the commission, and by midnight, we had to be shut down, and by the next day, we had to have our guests off the property. So it was quite a shock, and we had to make some quick adjustments, make some important decisions. We have 1,800 employees here, and so those decisions affect a lot of lives, a lot of families. And you talk about Rick and Terry, they're community guys, they're from Gulfport, and after Katrina, they made a very important decision. They didn't take their ball and go home. They saw an opportunity to buy the Grand in Gulfport, and with the change in the law allowing the casinos to build within 800 feet of the shoreline, they said, we're going to get back in the game. And look what they've done, since then. It's just phenomenal. But those 1,800 jobs, those are people, and having to make those decisions, it was a very stressful time for us, and I think we did a good job handling it.
So what's interesting about Rick and Terry is, as you well pointed out, they had a lot of opportunities over the years. One, take the insurance money and run after Katrina. They didn't choose to do that. They took significant risks, and because at the time they bought the Grand in Gulfport, we didn't know where all this was headed, and there was a lot of vision that had to be part of that decision. And then once they got that up and running, they were doing really well. They didn't have to build the beach casino and the new hotel, and all the stuff that's come along the way. They continue to invest in Gulfport and help make sure that, as you pointed out, 1,800 employees. That's big expansion over the many years that they've been in business. Right. So you're shut down, and then you get word you're going to be able to open back up again. And one of the things I've talked about many times on this show is that casinos are large organizations, and especially in this pandemic situation, you don't just flip a switch and tell everybody come back to work and it's all we're going to just turn the light back on and open it up. There's retraining that took place, and you had to change the way you do business so that people could know it's a safe environment to visit. Tell us about that process.
Sure. Well, we were targeting 2 weeks when we first closed. So, we thought this was very temporary. And then as things evolved, we realized very quickly that that it was going to be in for the long haul, and we just didn't have a date. And so the governor was saying Memorial Day. Well, you can't start rehiring people when you don't have jobs for them. And we got word, I think it was the Friday before Memorial Day, that we finally got official word that we were going to be allowed to reopen the Thursday before Memorial Day. So we had less than a week. And you're right. So we formed this thing called our COVID response team. I headed that up. We brought in division heads from our operations team, from our hotel operations, our security, surveillance, and brought those folks together in a room on a Friday afternoon. And we worked all weekend. We put together literally a plan, a notebook that I could hand you and say, here's our COVID response guidebook. You know, this is how we're going to operate going forward. And by Tuesday, we were doing Zoom and Skype training sessions for our employees, having them call in. And you can see, I don't know if you can see this, but this is my bracelet. So part of our procedures, every day, I have to come in, answer 5 questions, have my temperature taken, and I get banded. Every one of our employees has to have this done before they're allowed to come on property. And so using the PPE, cleaning and disinfecting and all the high touch points, the deep cleaning we had to do before we reopened for the entire property, we refreshed the entire property while it was closed. So there were some good things, good opportunities for us to do things we couldn't otherwise do. But as we brought those people back, there was a learning curve. And then the people wearing the masks all the time, I mean, it's kind of a change for them. And then bringing our guests to the property with limited usage of our games. We're using about 40% of our capacity. We're allowed to have 50% of our occupancy, on property. So a lot of changes, a lot of things we had to learn and get ready for. But when we opened that Thursday morning, you would have thought there would have been lines, but it was a trickle of people. And by lunch, we had a good number of people on property, but everything's so different. It's almost like you have maybe 40% of your games on, 2 or 3 restaurants opened. You got to come through security. All the guests had to answer these questions, be offered masks, hand sanitizer, and all of that. So it was just a different experience. But I can tell you this: people were ready to get back out, and the feedback we got is that people actually feel safer at our property than they do in a grocery store situation.
Well, you moved through it pretty quickly, but the reality was that being an employee in this environment, as you point out, it meant a lot of change and some retraining that had to take place. So what's different about when you walk into the casino? Which you can pick whichever one, either the beach side or the north casino. But how does it feel different when you walk in?
On that first day, it was like a ghost town. It was just quiet. You're not used to a casino being quiet. You just had a few people there, and then as you watch people, we have these stickers on the floor about social distancing. But people were, wearing masks, enjoying themselves, but it didn't have the excitement. Let's do
this. We're getting to the break. Why don't we come back with Mike Bruffy, the VP and General Counsel for Island View Casino Resort, and we'll continue the conversation about things ramping back up after the pandemic situation. Sort of where are we today? We'll be back after this break.
Follow SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on Facebook. Facebook.com/SuperTalk MS Coast 103.1.
From the Gallo Archives.
In the House, first time since 2014 Senate race, Chris McDaniel. Looking back on the election 2014, if Chris McDaniel had not so vehemently rejected the result after the election and marched on, you would today be a viable candidate, either for lieutenant governor or for governor.
I thought what occurred there was beyond the pale. They called me a Klansman. They called me a racist. They called me the most despicable things in the world, and we know good and well there were crossover votes that occurred, and the evidence was strong.
Did you ever talk to Thad Cochran after that?
I tried on several occasions.
Oh, is that right?
You know, he never did return my call, and I always wanted him to know that I respected him as an individual, but the disagreements didn't change that respect that I had for him.
Are you looking forward to the next session?
Yes, sir, very much so. It's the first time in some time I'm not going to be in timeout. The powers that be have a way of punishing if you step out of line, so to speak. You know that.
I know that because George Flaggs taught me that.
Right, so.
From the Gallo Archives.
Get out of the house and over to Big Play today. 2 massive arcades, bowling, go-karts, 2 mini golf courses, a 2-story state-of-the-art laser tag arena, bumper cars, and right now get a $50 game card for only $25. Visit our station's Facebook and print on demand so you can play at Big Play Entertainment Center now. These deals won't last long, so make sure you get your half-off deal. Big Play Entertainment Center, Highway 90, Biloxi. Bowl, play, eat. Go to our station's Facebook to get your half-off deal now.
This is House Call for Health. Medical researchers spend years developing drugs to treat cancer, but it's possible the next big cancer-fighting breakthrough could already be in your medicine cabinet. Scientists have long known that a drug for one ailment can sometimes be effective in treating something else. Aspirin is the most famous example. Researchers at Harvard, MIT, and the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute tested more than 4,500 existing medications. They found 48 drugs that killed at least some cancer cells. These drugs are for several different conditions, including diabetes, inflammation, and alcoholism. One drug is used for treating arthritis in dogs. Researchers in the journal Nature Cancer said the medications sometimes worked in different ways than mainstream cancer drugs. Now they hope these drugs can be further developed into true new weapons against cancer. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Hey, want to come work for the #1 radio group on the coast? TeleSouth Media has a great opportunity for an outside sales consultant. Get paid while having fun and work in the exciting, fast-paced world of radio. We have award-winning stations like 97.9 CPR Rocks, 105.9 The Monkey, G96.7, SuperTalk 103.1, and 103.5 The Possum. Take the first step towards a new and rewarding career. Submit your resume to Jesse@telesouth.com. That's JESSE@telesouth.com. TeleSouth Media is an equal employment opportunity employer.
We serve on the front lines, fighting an invisible enemy and caring for our communities with courage and compassion. The COVID-19 crisis has challenged us like never before. Now, the men and women of America's hospitals and health systems are counting on Congress and the administration to stand with us as we stand ready to care for you in every way, every day.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk, Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else. Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. I have Mike Bruffy, who is the VP and General Manager for the Island View Casino with me today. And we were talking about before the break about all the things that had to be put in place to ensure a safe visit. And then he was talking about like the first day it was really strange because sort of quiet. You're not used to a casino being quiet. But it didn't take long for things to ramp up, did it, Mike?
No, not at all. We have... there's a lot more excitement on the floor right now than we had our first couple of days, and people became more comfortable. Our parking lot's starting to fill back up, and you can kind of see things are not back to where they were, but certainly getting much closer.
So what you've done is you've spaced people out at the slot machines. Tell me about those kind of things.
Sure. The Gaming Commission, when they allowed us to reopen, they sent out guidelines, and we actually, as an industry, were allowed to provide some input. And there was a conversation between Dr. Dobbs and the governor's office, the gaming commissioners, and the executive director, Mr. Godfrey. And we were, we sent our proposals and what we thought would be adequate guidelines, and then they came back with the actual guidelines. And so that's what we've had to comply with. That's what all the training was about. And the spacing you mentioned, most states went to every other slot machine, and in our state they didn't allow us to do that. We had to be at least 6 feet apart. Well, a slot machine in between two slot machines is about 5 feet apart. So we actually had 10 feet of spacing in our facilities, rather than the 6 foot spacing that you really hear about, or that they asked for. But if you look at Arkansas, if you look at Louisiana, you look at Nevada, I mean, they're all every other machine. And in fact, Louisiana went to 75% of their capacity. So we were down at 40%. We were a little concerned, to be honest. But look, people are resilient. It's just like after Katrina, the big lines. People came back and they're enjoying themselves.
Well, I talked to Milton Segura from Coastal Mississippi Tourism, and he said the number one thing people are paying attention to before they look at anything else is, can they go to a community and feel safe? Does the community get it? Do they provide them the assurance that while they're there, that the people who operate these facilities really get it? And the casinos obviously have done a great job at that. It's been awesome watching that. Hey, listen, one thing I want to make sure we focus on is that in my conversation with Rick and Terry is really just about them and their journey. And right. Then you and I are talking today, but the one constant through all these years has been Lindsay Inman and a very consistent team of management around the Island View, just kind of continue to rise to the occasion of Rick and Terry's challenges. Tell me about that.
Sure. So I've been working for the Gaming Association from 2014 to 2018, and I got a call from Lindsay and John Bakley, and they've been together almost 20 years here at Island View. And Kathy Beating, who was my predecessor, took a job with Churchill Downs and decided to head up to Louisville. Great opportunity for her and big shoes to fill, let me tell you. Well, Lindsay and John called me and asked me to join their team, and it was quite an honor, quite a shock. Kathy and I are pretty close friends, and I didn't know she was leaving. But working with Lindsay, that goes back to my Isle days, and that's where I started in the industry. And John Bakley as well. John and I used to office next to each other, so it was nice to rejoin these guys, and they're excellent operators. They've done a fantastic job here at Island View, as you can tell by looking at the expansion over the years. And I've learned a lot. I've learned what their journey has been, and now I get to tell the story. I hadn't been with them, but it's a wonderful, wonderful story, and it's because of their leadership for sure.
Yeah, it's been awesome watching that through it. Rick and Terry have been really lucky to have consistency in their management team, because if you look around the industry, it's not uncommon to have a lot of change in the industry just because there's so much opportunity. I mean, people, they'll come in and they'll move on because there's other opportunities that open up. Sure. And in Lindsay's case and many of the members of his team's case, they have found their niche here at Island View, and in creating this local experience and this locally owned, experience that has been very unique. And Rick and Terry have been very lucky for that.
Yes, absolutely. So when I mentioned telling the story, we've been in Arkansas and trying to vie for a license up there. And so we put together several presentations. And, I think going back to the post-Katrina days, and you see the barge on the highway, and then you see the picture 18 months later of this beautiful facility reopening and where they've gone since then in the 14 years now. But it's been quite a journey. They've done a fantastic job, and I get back to the jobs, that they've created and what they give to the community here in Gulfport. With the aquarium coming online here soon, we've donated $200,000 a year for 10 years, committed to that. With the Harbor Lights, same thing. So
let's do this, Mike. We're coming to the end of our time together, but you mentioned Arkansas, but one of the 4 licenses available has now been awarded to Rick and Terry, and so there's an opportunity in Arkansas for them to expand. There's a few more hurdles, but hopefully in the near future we'll be talking more about that.
Yeah, I hope to come back and tell you more about that. It's an exciting project. River Valley Casino is the name. And if you go to that website, you can check it out and see what our vision looks like for Arkansas.
Okay, super, man. Listen, thank you for joining me, and have a great day.
You too. Thank you, Ricky. I appreciate it.
You bet. Bye-bye.